Folks, welcome back. We did a little swap-a-roo on you pretty quick here. I'm now joined by Mary Jean Maliska, local psychologist, as well as Rebecca Stairs, a clinical social worker. Ladies, thanks so much for being here. If you would, Mary Jean, a little bit about yourself and your practice.
Well, as you mentioned, I'm a psychologist.
Oh, sex therapist as well.
And a sex therapist. Yeah. And what that involves is basically sexual health, as well as sex addiction and relationship counseling, and they all seem to be intertwined at various times. And
I think so.
Yeah, it's fun.
Excellent. Thanks for being here.
Thanks.
Rebecca, a little bit about yourself and what you do.
I'm a clinical social worker and I do equine assisted therapy. So sometimes there's a big relationship, not always, but I think it's pretty cool. And I do the addiction work with both as a clinical social worker and with the equine work.
Cool stuff. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you.
So in the first half of the show, we talked about emerging technologies and what's kind of in the pipes as far as entertainment. Video games have come a long way. Along with video games have come, video game addiction. Are we seeing media addiction, video game addiction on the rise lately?
Definitely, not just with the gaming addiction, but with the addiction to the social media sites. And are you on your Facebook 15 hours a day, and is it starting to interfere with your relationships with other people? We are definitely seeing that there is a big increase in that addiction. So
are these social media outlets, are they starting to affect interpersonal relationships?
Well, definitely in the area of sex addiction.
I would think so.
Social media, it can take a number of different dimensions, but certainly the internet as the common denominator, sex addiction is like the internet is the crack cocaine of sex addiction.
So, as far as the internet is concerned itself, content on the internet, it's something like, I think 80% of what's on the internet is pornographic material. That's a fact.
I don't know the exact numbers, but
sure, I won't hold you to it, but it's got to be close, right?
Yeah,
that sounds possible. I bet I couldn't even speak to that either. Yeah.
So how do we get there, first and foremost?
Well, sex has been around as long as everybody has been, and it's a curiosity. Our brains are wired for novelty, and certainly the internet provides that, and at a more rapid pace. And it's very easy to find oneself going down that rabbit hole, and who knows where they pop out.
Virtual reality is, I think, an interesting, peripheral as far as what people are how they're going to utilize it to interact in the future. I think one thing that stands out for me is dating apps right now. So people will pour their hearts out online, essentially trying to find that special someone. Online virtual reality has the potential to create intimate connections and relationships. But are these generally going to be healthy relationships?
I think it depends if the relationship stays virtual or if it moves into that interpersonal and sort of face-to-face dynamic. It is very easy to create this artificial relationship when you're online, which is some of what that Facebook does too. You're talking to people all over the world, you're getting these really in-depth discussions, but you're doing it with this sort of artificial context. You're at home, you're by yourself, you can be whomever you want to be, and you have no way of gauging who the other person actually is or what their behaviors are, or sincerity. So it is very easy, like you said, to go down the rabbit hole with that one too. So if you do the dating apps and you stay at home, no, it's not going to be necessarily the most in-depth connected relationship. Though when you're in it, it is definitely going to feel like it.
Yeah, it's fascinating. So it begs the question: Is virtual reality going to be viewed as a potential treatment for multiple types of addiction, or will virtual reality be the source of addiction itself?
It could be both. It definitely could be a source of addiction. When I started looking at some of the virtual reality technology that's coming down the pike, I was astounded, really. Like, that is huge. I'm thinking it's going to be like regular porn on steroids.
Which of course has huge addiction implications, I would think.
Yeah. At the same time, there's a tremendous opportunity to use that media, that technology, as a way of treatment.
Yes, and I
Treatment
do
of
want to
a lot of
touch a lot
different-
more on that. We're going to jump to a quick break, check in with the Rand Pack. Folks, stay with us. We'll be right back.
For virtual reality, I think it'll be really cool for the consumers. We all know about the applications in the corporate world, the business world, the medical field. That'll be really helpful. But I think for online shopping, for people who want to go on virtual dates, all those things will be a whole lot better with these kind of headsets. The problem being is, the question there is that form of communication as legitimate as the face-to-face one? And I used to think that they were the same, now not so much. The online dating thing was really cool for a while. Now it's starting to show its cracks, as in people use it for only low-down purposes, it seems like. This virtual reality, I feel like, is what my sense is, that the people doing the more vice-oriented businesses will thrive more than, let's say, an online mall.
Now there's thousands of Canadians that suffer from social anxieties. A big one is agoraphobia. It's a very debilitating social disorder, no question about that. How does virtual reality present an opportunity as a treatment tool for people suffering through agoraphobia and other anxiety disorders?
Definitely through being able to be exposed to situations where either it's impossible or it's impractical. If someone is not able to get out of the house, or just very, very resistant, then it would be very helpful to be able to have an apparatus like the Oculus to gradually habituate
like
them.
a step-by-step, modular-based kind of treatment.
Yeah, where they know that they're still safe.
Yeah.
Because that's a big part of the anxiety, is what's going to be happening outside.
Yeah, we were talking about this earlier, and one of the biggest barriers in making any change is you get to the point where you have to do it, right? Where you have to actually apply these tools and this learning, and you have to face your fear. And I think that the virtual reality is a great tool for that, where you can do this in a safe and supported environment, where you potentially have your therapist with you to talk you through it, to remind you about the tools, to help you debrief it as well, and give you that confidence. So when you have to go and do it in the real world, you've already got this successful or multiple successful experiences under your belt.
It's a trial run, right? I think it's brilliant.
But you're setting yourself up for success, which is better than just a trial run.
No, that's a good point. You're right. That's a very good point. Addiction-wise, sure, we talked earlier, this apparatus could be virtual reality, could be the source of addiction moving forward. As far as treatment's concerned, though, did a bit of reading about addiction in preparation for the show. It seems some, but not all, addictions are essentially related to escapism, to escape reality. Fantasy, right. So you'd think, I hear the word virtual reality, tailor-made for addiction treatment. Fair statement?
That's interesting. Taking the addiction media and turning it into a way. I could really see it, especially with some of the people that I work with. Their reality is so blah. It's so gray compared to the amazing fantasy that they can construct and play out.
So, right, so you mentioned that. I think about the movie Avatar. Now, after this movie aired, there was hordes of people that apparently were pretty depressed after the fact. They really, they put on their 3D glasses and went to the theater and watched the film and enjoyed that, I guess, emotional environment more so than potentially. It's a powerful tool, clearly.
So what I could potentially see is not having the porn images in terms of some of the folks that I work with, but having their primary partner, so using an avatar of themselves and their husband or wife as the people involved. And then, what does that actually look like when the avatar of yourself is having a healthy sexual experience
with your actual partner?
With your actual partner.
Is this going to cure, marriage problems in 2020 or what?
Well, I'm not a sex therapist, right?
Sure,
so I do more like behavioral.
Yeah, no, that's fair. But can you see the potential?
I can see the potential, but for my mind, it's more, how do you manage the trigger of walking into or by a bar if you're an alcoholic,
Yes.
and how do you learn to manage the immediate triggers that come up? So from my perspective, that's what it would be more used for. And I've been seeing just in my readings that it's wildly successful in helping people manage their triggers. Right?
That's cool. That's really good news. As far as support groups, I know multiple therapeutic, I guess, whether it be addiction, depression, these group therapy sessions, anonymous or not, I think are useful tools. Virtual reality, that to me is an interesting one. We can bring people together in that safe, non-judgmental environment for their anonymous discussions. Is that going to be the first step, do you think, as far as utilizing virtual reality for the treatment of whatever disorder?
Really depends on the person.
Yeah.
There's nothing like face-to-face and the real experience, like the actual experience of being in a room with a group of people who all have a commonality, like AA or SAA.
Right.
And so, that I think is still reigns supreme. However, for people who, especially around sex addiction, huge shame around that.
Anonymity is a big part of the process for them?
Absolutely, and that's the curse of the internet, because they have all the anonymity that they want. However, for people who know that they need to move into a 12-step program or something like that, and or even to individual counseling, and yet they're paralyzed by their own sense of shame or whatever it is, then having that initial step to be able to meet in a virtual way, I could see that being useful.
Depression traditionally has been treated with pharmaceuticals. Is there going to be, do you think, around the corner some non-pharmaceutical technologies utilized in the treatment of depression? Sky's the limit.
For sure. We know that some of the best treatments for depression is a combination of therapy and the pharmaceuticals. And I think that if we are using the virtual reality as a tool in therapy, then absolutely. And with depression, that behavioral activation is so key in the treatment, is how do we actually build motivation and continue to create it? And I think the virtual one is a really positive first step if they're struggling to self-motivate. Right? Or when life becomes so challenging that getting out of bed and brushing your teeth is about what you do in your day, because that's all you have the capacity for. So I think that there is definitely merit to it. My concern would be, is it used appropriately, or is it becoming another escapism mechanism?
Well, and I mean, that's where we're going to regulate moving forward, I suppose.
Right.
We're out of time. Ladies, thanks very much for being here. Folks, that's it for this evening. As always, you can get at us on Facebook. We're on Twitter as well. Don't be a stranger. We'll see you next week. Take care.